Coming up on TekThing, fast connections with hidden cables. LastPass got bought. Should we stop using it? New iMacs, drive enclosures for your laptop's old SSD, and Apple owes $1 billion? So what? It's all coming up on TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we make technology behave.
Except when it kicks us to the curb and beats us unconscious.
Except mine never does that because my tech is awesome and loves me.
Lies, ladies and gentlemen. Curious news about Windows 10 product keys now being the same as what's going on?
Okay, so I just found this morning, like right when I woke up. It sounds like next month you'll be able to actually use your old Windows 7 or 8 activation keys to activate Windows 10. Huh! So I just wanted to mention that for everybody because that's been very confusing leading up to now. But apparently they're changing it next month. They've already started rolling it out, so hopefully everybody should see it by next month.
Well, it's funny because you would sort of get your Windows 10 installation and on top of your Windows 7 or Windows 8, and it would activate it, and then you would have two keys on your system.
So this makes it much easier to do a very clean install.
A clean install.
Yes, a clean one.
What
so hey, new stuff about Apple as well.
Yeah. I can't load the Apple Mac page. It's kind of, check this out. This is amazing. We got like 125. Oh, there it goes.
There it goes.
It was just being shy as long as the camera wasn't on it. Yeah, new iMacs.
Huh.
In colossal and ginormous.
Really?
And in Apple speak, colossal is apparently 21.5 inches and ginormous is 27 inches. So new iMacs, the 21.5 inch iMacs are now available with 4K screens for $1,499. Both the 21.5 and the 27 inch models are getting new processors. So 32 gigabytes max on the 27 inch, 16 gigabytes max on the 21.5 inch. My understanding is that this memory is not user accessible, so if you think you're going to need 32 gigabytes, get the 32 gigabytes of memory when you buy it. The less expensive 21.5 inch models get 1080p screens. It's interesting, they come with a standard rotating drive. Most of them are available with an SSD drive or the Fusion drive. And something I thought was delightful, okay, it's the same basic design, it looks pretty familiar, but keep scrolling down, kids, because, you know, remember how Apple just seems to hate ports?
Yeah.
At least on their laptops. Look at all the ports on the iMac. Yeah, SDXC card slot,
user-friendly.
4 USB 3.0, a pair of Thunderbolt 2 ports, gigabit Ethernet, which is nice.
Sweet.
The SSD drives are kind of overpriced for what you get, I think, spectacularly so. CPUs are Broadwell, not Skylake, which is fine for performance. No discrete GPU options on the 21.5 inch, even the 4K, and the 27 inch models are still the 5K models.
Oh, okay.
So they're pretty.
Those are pretty screens.
And they should be reasonably quick.
I want one. Not going to get one.
Not going to get one?
No.
While we're talking about Apple, some of the big news this morning, like, you know, Apple could owe $862 million to the University of Wisconsin for violating a patent that improves processor efficiency.
Wow.
This is not a big story. I mean, it sucks, right? You know,
it's a lot of money.
It's like $1 billion.
For me.
The better part of $1 billion. Apple has like $150 billion in cash salted away.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
at least last year it was $150 billion.
So this is like chump change for them.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're going to fight it every step of the way, and they'll probably stretch it out forever because they have all of the lawyers. But I was just laughing because somebody's like, this is a big deal. Apple's getting fined $862 million. Apple's got $150 billion squirreled away.
So you're like, nothing.
Considerable cash reserves.
No kidding. It's probably just for these kind of things too.
I'm just saying.
So hey, we did a really cool build along with Patrick's CPU and his cooler torturing. Patrick's also been upgrading his laptop solid state drives, which is greatly assisted by, say, I don't know, an SATA or an M.2 external enclosure if you want to use Clonezilla or Super Duper to image your current OS onto your new SSD. Though frankly, you're missing a chance to reinstall your OS and apps and decruft your system. So remember that. Kill the bit rot. We actually got a question over on Twitter from @ShannaTornado. I love your name. They said, @TekThing, hi, Patrick Norton Snubs, can you recommend an M.2 USB enclosure for the SSD I pulled out of my lappy? Thanks.
So I've been having to deal with with an older MacBook.
Yeah.
And my Dell XPS.
Yes.
And it's been interesting. If you're upgrading the drive in your laptop and you're pulling out a regular M.2 drive, Sabrent's USB 3.0 M.2 2 enclosure, which is this puppy right here. It's $14.99 on Amazon. It's pretty much the bomb. Yeah, I mean 2,793 customer reviews, averaging 4 stars. Decent fit and feel, and hey, it works. You just pop in your drive and then you install 2 screws and you're done. Just like that.
It's so cute.
And it's USB 3.0. For your M.2 drive, things get a little more complicated. There are a fistful of internal PCI Express adapters, but not much in the way of internal enclosures. In fact, it should be external enclosures. Literally, like the only one I've seen is this one, the ZTC Thunder.
Ooh.
Thunder enclosure.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
NGFF M.2 SSD to USB 3.0 adapter support UASP super speed 6 gigabytes per second, 520 megabytes per second. Black model ZTC EN004BK. There's also a gold model. Well, the gold model is particularly attractive if you're into that. That is just awesome gold anodizing. It's interesting because it's a fairly simple setup. It's kind of peculiar. Like, I thought the USB 3.0 jack was bent, but it's just soldered to the main board in a really curious way. But you install your M.2 drive, and there's a fitting. It's a lot of little tiny pieces. Like, this is the screwdriver that comes with the ZTC Thunder.
Oh, it's tiny.
It is tiny because it's dealing with tiny screws, including the one that actually holds the M.2 drive down. But look, the trickiest part is you actually have to install the M.2 drive. You have to insert the board from the back, or it will not go in. And then, of course, it slides through too far. So then you have to install the faceplate and its little tiny screw. And then you install the back plate and its little tiny screw. And generally speaking...
Should we do a build video on this?
No. Even I cannot make a build video out of 2 screws. But it's... once it's assembled, it's fairly solid. I would put a little, blue Loctite on those little tiny screws, although they give you an extra pair. And thoughtfully, they give you a USB 3.0 cable. The reviews on this are super, super mixed. It was kind of crazy, like 3.5 stars. It either works fine for the end users or not. A lot of users are having issues like shutting down during large transfers or overheating and slowing down. The Thunder is really interesting. It's socketed for B key M.2 drives. Popping in a B plus M key to 850 Evo drive worked just fine. I formatted it, then I started moving files onto it. In my testing, I first copied 10 gigabytes of mixed files onto that Samsung 850 Evo M.2. The ZTC Thunder, no problems. Then I copied 74 gigabytes of files onto it. It held up fine, but I was like, okay, that 74 gigabytes of files came off a rotating media drive, so they were transferring slower, so maybe the throughput wasn't high enough to cause the heat-based glitches some people see. Although at this point I could feel the warmth, because there's a processor right here, and it gets hot.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
So then I moved 52 gigabytes of files onto it off of a USB 3.0 memory stick. It still didn't choke, though at this point the aluminum enclosure was starting to get noticeably hot. I bring that up because in some of the online reviews, people reported that if they used USB 2.0 connections instead of B 3.0 connections, they were actually able to complete their backups or their file movements. It just takes so much longer. So a minute ago, I mentioned M.2 USB.
Keying,
yeah,
right?
M.2 keying.
Yeah.
Keying. M.2 is ridiculous because there are so many M.2 variations. For example, the ZTC Thunder is compatible with SSDs that are 30, 42, 60, 80, or 110 millimeters long. These are all 22 millimeters wide.
Wow.
But right, so you can see it right on here.
That's a lot of variations.
So there's literally like little slots you can drop your screw into on the back of this.
Yeah, makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's kind of crazy. So there's different edge connector keys, i.e. the cuts in the end of the card. This one is a B plus M edge key connector. A or E keys are for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or cellular cards. M.2 cards can be used for DisplayPort, though I haven't seen one. Most of the upgrades, though, are going to be for drives. So, like I said, this supports, 30, 42, 60, 80, and 110 millimeter drives. That said, then you get into the actual edge keying, which there's B edge connectors, M edge connectors, and B plus M edge connectors.
Jeez.
brace yourselves. M-key drives like Samsung's SM951, which is not the drive I'm holding right here, or like the Pro drives from Samsung, can use up to 4 PCI Express lanes, and the NVMe versions even offload work from the CPU compared to HCI. So you can buy like okay, a Samsung 951, do I get the AHCI or the NVMe? Which, if you can get your hands, by the way, on the SM951 and can use 4 PCI Gen 3 lanes, you get ridiculous drive performance if you can keep it cool. It's kind of like seems to be the problem with the M.2, because it's the M.2 performance is pretty much the same as the M-SATA, is pretty much the same as the full-size SSD drives. Although these,
so you got to keep it cool.
You got to keep them cool. Okay, you probably do not have an M-Edge connected NVMe like PCI Express 4-lane drive in your laptop yet, but there are X99, Z97, or Z170 motherboards you can plug it into. Look for Ultra M.2 support, or you can actually plug the drives into a PCI Express adapter, which is not that, but is this. So for like 30 bucks, you can get a PCI Express adapter. And with one of those SM951s, you would have a sick drive to store your video editing files or for high-speed file transfers, because it doesn't have the SATA bus, which is, did I mention the whole thing about M.2 getting crazy?
Yes.
This is off the Wikipedia page for M.2 drives, right? So basically, well, okay, you can do PCI Express, Express Link, HCI, NVM Express controllers, or legacy SATA drives, all supported off of the same M.2 format, depending on how it's keyed and whether or not you have the chipset available.
I'm still slightly confused. Don't
feel bad. Well, I bring this up, right, because like laptops are migrating, and actually motherboards are migrating from M-SATA to M.2. In any case, Shauna, there literally seems to be one M.2 external drive options out there under different brands, but they all look to be almost exactly the same enclosure.
Okay.
In part because there aren't that many M.2 laptops out there being upgraded to bigger SSDs yet. In my modest testing, the ZTC Thunder works fine for basic B or B plus M keyed drives. And watch yourself when you're ordering M.2 drives. There are too many options.
I have a feeling I need to do some research on these so I can expand my knowledge base.
Well, there's SATA Express, PCI. It's.
This is a whole nother segment in itself. Shh, shh. Darren, tell us what's happening on Hack5 this week.
Hey Patrick, this week we have an epic Hack5 episode on hacking wireless remotes with replay attacks, and you can find that and more over at youtube.com/hack5, or of course, hak5.org.
This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is inspired by Scott, who writes, "Hello TekThing. I just moved into my new apartment and I want to keep my desktop connected to my wired network. My computer is hooked up with a wireless USB dongle, but I prefer to have it wired to my network. My FIOS modem, fiber optics, you are so lucky,
Fire optics,
is located in the living room. I want to hide network cables that will be running between the living room and my room. Any suggestions are appreciated. Thanks for the great show." From Scott. Are you ready?
I'm just still contemplating the idea of
Fire optics.
Fire optic
Oh, the fire.
cabling.
Gosh, I wish I had fiber. Man, you're so lucky, Scott. Anyway, okay.
ready
for number one?
Yes.
Okay.
You didn't say ready, go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ready.
Yes?
Go!
All right, number one, Powerline Networking is your friend. It was a really good article up on the Wirecutter. They just picked the best Powerline Networking kit. The Zyzel PLA5405 is faster than 2.5 gigahertz Wi-Fi and gives you a connection speed as fast as some 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi routers, averaging 163 megabits per second in high-performance tests. And it shouldn't block the whole outlet if you plug it in the bottom. Boom!
Cool.
No Wi-Fi to your desk. You're using the power line. Presumably, the desktop computer has an outlet. You should be good to go. It's $100 for the kit.
And number two.
What's that? An AC router would be faster? Well, sure. If it's short range line of sight, you can get upwards of 400 megabits per second. Longer distances, still line of sight, you're looking at 300 to 350 megabits per second. Put a wall in the way and you're probably going to be dropping down to 200 megabits per second or so at short ranges, which actually is faster than that Powerline kit. So, okay, a new AC router might be worth the upgrade, but chances are Scott's going to have to buy an AC adapter for his desktop, along with something like this, the TP-Link Archer C7 AC1750 dual band wireless AC gigabit router, 2.4 gigahertz, 450 megabits per second plus 5 gigahertz, 1300 megabits per second, 2 USB port IPv6 guest network. by
Wow.
TP-Link. I always wanted to do that.
92 bucks, not bad.
No, it was 87 20 minutes ago.
Oh.
Amazon, the prices, they shift.
Went up. Number 3.
They shift. Number 3, a bunch of companies are now selling flat Ethernet cable.
Yes, I love these.
A little creative routing and throw rugs could be your friend. It's not flat like paper flat, but it's a lot flatter.
They're easier to organize.
They're easier to organize, and they're not that expensive. Like, this is a 50-foot patch cable that's, probably like 4 or 5, not even 4 or 5 millimeters. Well, it's tiny. Oh, look. There they are. Aww. Pretending it's going under a rug, despite the fact that it's on top of a rug. In any case, flat Ethernet cable is an option. And finally,
well, we have 4.
We have 4. Because if I don't mention cable races, somebody's going to email, or
yes.
a whole bunch of somebody's going to email. Cable races, aka covers. They call them cable covers if you're shopping at certain big hardware stores that feature a lot of blue in their logo. Mm-hmm. They will hide that Ethernet cable, but you're going to spend a ton of time installing those races, right? If you've never seen like a cable race, these are examples of cable races. They're little plastic covers that you basically nail up or screw into the wall and then slide a cover into. Of course, you're going to have to remove them when you leave the place, and hey, filling in the holes that they left when you screwed them into the wall. Races might not be your friend compared to AC power line or flat Ethernet, but they are an option. The other thing you can do is if there's trim, some actual
trim at the bottom between your carpet and the wall.
Yes.
Pretty little decorated thing.
But again, that gets into modifying your apartment, which you may or may not be comfortable with. By the way, it's amazing how well toothpaste will fill in most small holes in plaster. Hot tip for you people.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
I know what I'm doing tonight. Toothpaste.
Toothpaste.
Which you can get free with coupons.
Just make sure it's white toothpaste, not like red or green toothpaste.
Well, duh.
You laugh. I had somebody fill in the holes in a dorm room with red toothpaste once.
Oh no. What are your picks? Let us know your answers for Scott. You can email us, ask@tekthing.com.
LastPass got acquired, as in bought by LogMeIn. Should we freak out? We posted the news on Facebook and got quite a few mixed replies. You can go to facebook.com/TekThing to read them for yourself.
Oh yeah.
You are a little miffed.
Slightly miffed. So, LastPass.
Miffed.
Come on, LastPass. Really, guys? Really? So why does the LastPass acquisition by LogMeIn really get me up in a huff? This is kind of a big question, and I kind of thought it to myself. Why does this bother me so much? Well, first off, when LastPass was bought by LogMeIn, which is a maker of remote software, not necessarily password managers, why did they want to buy it for $110 million?
Because they would have a password manager in their stable and be able to leverage the wonderful LastPass password management technology across all of their products.
It has nothing to do with remote software.
And Google is making self-driving cars. What does that have to do with search?
I don't know. I feel a little skeptical about it.
Well,
just going to say, I just feel a little skeptical. So they obviously see some kind of value in it, of course, for $110 million. That's quite a bit of money. Second, LogMeIn specifically said in the past that LogMeIn free would always be free. And this was a big deal to a lot of people because, it was a great service, really good software, but then they canceled it and now they charge at the cheapest $99 per year for the consumer product. And it goes up from there up to like $499 to one that's $999. I believe it was $49 when it was first transitioning from free to actually costing money. So that was a really big jump for a lot of people, and they basically lost a lot of customers based on that new price. It was really expensive.
This is what really chaps your couponing posterior.
You know what really grinds my gears? And their customer service has a reputation of being really bad. Specifically, if you look up LogMeIn customer service reviews, like on Google, or if you looked at all the different websites that allow you to write reviews about different online companies, you can see all the kind of reputation that they have, especially when it comes to refunding or canceling auto pay renewals, which will happen yearly, which you automatically sign up for. So it's kind of an issue for me, especially with LogMeIn, which has a generally good reputation as far as customer service goes. Third, LogMeIn remote access software is used as a top choice of scammers to cold call targets, telling them that their computer has viruses, which they haven't really done anything about. And sadly, people fall for these scams all the time.
Are you basically saying LogMeIn is so easy to use that people who want to scam people out of money pretending they have like, hi, this is Bob from Microsoft Central.
Yeah.
We're detecting a virus on your machine, but for just $100 today. Well, you know what? I like the sound of your voice. Not that I've let you speak yet, but for $75 a day, I'll clear the virus off your system.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me your
That's
credit
what
card
they do.
number. Great. Now I need you to download go to LogMeIn. So that's not their fault.
It's not their fault, but they could definitely put up like a disclaimer on their site or send out an email to all their customers saying like, hey, this kind of attack happens. Make sure you don't end up being one of the people that falls for this. Or they could even put something on their website when you first download it, like a disclaimer that says, you know, look out for these kind of cold call attempts. These are scammers, these are phishers. Kind of like what your bank will do if there's some kind of attempt on the bank, or if they're changing a security feature on their website, they'll send you an email. So if you're a new customer, I think it would be really important for LogMeIn to give you some kind of information first off, to be like, hey, this is what our service does. Make sure you don't fall for this kind of attempt.
Right.
I think it would be nice of them to do that. They don't necessarily have to. It's not their fault that scammers are doing this, but it would help their reputation.
Customer service statement.
It would help their reputation a lot. So
I should also point out, I've been searching to find out what the current cost of LogMeIn.com is, and I've been able to find sort of a commercial
there's like
version.
6 different versions.
I can't even find like, oh wait. So
oh yeah, you have to go to their website and go to trial, and then you have to click on the buy now. Yeah, so that one's the business version.
Right.
And then the other version I think is called Pro.
Okay,
and it's under
free.
products. See, you went to the wrong place. It's really
they make
complicated.
you sign up before they tell you what it's
You
going to
gotta
cost.
go to products, and then you go, see, it's so confusing. I found it once, and now it's so hard to find again. I think it's under Pro, and then click on Buy Now.
Okay.
Oh, there it is, $99 a year.
For 2 computers.
Yeah, for 2 computers.
Okay.
So, okay, moral of the story is trust no one. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You know, there's a lot of other podcasts that do say it. We don't know what will happen to LastPass in the coming years. And LogMeIn doesn't have a great reputation, especially after they failed to keep their thing free that they promised would be free forever. So go with what I do. At least this is what I would recommend. Don't save passwords for banking, for bills, for social networks, for email in a password manager, no matter which one you use. If your computer got stolen, one of the locally saved ones would probably be taken advantage of too. If LastPass got hacked, like for a real legit hack, your passwords might get stolen. So
LastPass
don't
did
save
get
those
hacked
ones.
a few months
well,
ago.
their master pass hashes got stolen,
Right.
but they didn't necessarily.
Right.
Like, it would be very complicated.
Yeah.
But
it's
yeah.
It's been an interesting summer
year
for
for them.
LastPass.
Only save those ones that if somebody stole them, they wouldn't get very much out of it. You wouldn't get a huge headache from it getting hacked. So like my shopping pages, I don't save my my shipping information, my credit card information. I don't save those on any of my shopping pages, but I save my generic passwords in there and continue to use those generic random passwords that are saved in that manager so that each one is different. And for the ones that you do memorize, like your banking website, social network, email stuff, use 2-factor authentication. So if somebody did figure out your password, they still couldn't get in because you have 2-factor authentication set up for your phone or whatever it might be. Again, I'm not psychic. Nobody really is, so I can't tell you whether or not you should splurge on, you know, the next several years of LastPass Premium or not, which some people have.
LogMeIn could do a fantastic job.
They could do a fantastic job. Like, we don't really know. LogMeIn has lied in the past about keeping a service free, so I wouldn't put it past them to lie again about LogMeIn, the free version. They might end up making the entire thing a premium service and upping the price to $100 per year. We really don't know if that's going to happen.
Are you going to migrate to a different password manager?
You know, I was thinking about it. 1Password has a sale going on right now where it's like 40% off.
Really?
Just so happens. Yeah, so maybe I'll transition to 1Password, maybe I'll go KeyPass. I've tried both of them. I prefer LastPass because it's so easy to use. But again, I'm just like, it's like seeing somebody steal your pet. I just love LastPass so much, and LogMeIn's such a jerk. So if you do want to transition to 1Password specifically, luckily there's a really nice write-up over on Troy Hunt's website. It's LogMeIn now owns LastPass. Here's how to migrate to 1Password. He writes out everything in a very easy to understand article here. So Very, very nice. Always be skeptical. When it comes to security, nobody fails for being skeptical about these kind of things.
20 bucks says 1Password gets bought next week.
You know, I wouldn't be super surprised if it did, but 1Password might just be like, nah, screw that.
Oh, my
I'm staying indie, yo. Hey, speaking of indie.
Punk rock, woo!
Whoa!
Well, indie, I think of like indie music and punk rock and
Oh my
stuff.
gosh. Yes, that's so true. Good times. But I'm talking about Patreon because our show is independent. We made another build video for all of our Patreons out there. Patrick got kind of enthusiastic with his liquid cooling on his new Skylake system. So if you want to see it, head on over to patreon.com/TekThing and become a TekThing patron. You can see him pretty much destroy his case.
I did not destroy it, I modified it.
You can donate however much you want per episode. We think $1 is a pretty good amount. It's pretty sweet.
Lovely place to start.
Yeah, any little bit counts really. And we really want to keep the show
Yes.
going ad-free, so thank you for everybody supporting it.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Something I didn't mention in that video is that I had to upgrade the BIOS on the ECS Z170 Claymore motherboard. Claymore motherboard, there it is. Oh look,
Yeah.
kids. Bink. That's
So
the motherboard.
cool.
The props to ECS for providing that for the build. Once I got the BIOS upgraded, the motherboard properly recognized the Core i7-6700, and I just give it a little tiny 4.1 gigahertz overclock, and I started to see some pretty hefty differences between the Corsair H100iGTX with the big fat, wide, dual 120 millimeter fan cooler on there, the H100iGTX, which stacks a pair of fans on a smaller cooler, and the Mugen 4, which is kind of the $55 air cooler of choice. I ran my test with all cores at 100% using Prime 95's torture test. EIST was on, so the CPU could throttle down. I felt that was a nice test of how well the coolers did, moving heat off the processor. Hint, the $104 Corsair H100iGTX delivered the best results, kept the CPU down around 55 degrees Celsius, running at 3,891 hertz. The $55 Scythe Mugen 4 and the $90 Corsair H80iGT were tied at 3,092 hertz, but the Mugen 4 ran 13 degrees hotter than the H80iGT, which I think is 167% hotter than the Core i, the H100 GTX.
Cool.
Biggest lesson for me, the factory thermal compound on, and these are, you know, the Corsair sealed coolers are really nice because they come preloaded with thermal compound, and they're just really easy to install, just see in the video. The factory thermal compound on the H100iGTX worked a lot better than the thermal grease I applied, because we tested it a second time with you know, that kind of the thermal grease I normally use.
Yeah.
I need to practice applying considerably less thermal compound, and then I want to retest the Mugen 4 to see if it gets any better if I put less goop between the heat sink and the processor, or the cooling plate and the processor. By the way, don't rip the top off the case to install an H100iGTX. Get a case with proper spacing for a pair of 120 millimeter fans.
So basically, if you want to see Patrick ripping apart his case and getting his thermal compound on and everything, become a patron. And next, I think sometime this month, hopefully next week, I'll be showing all of our Patreons how to turn a skull into an Arduino, with an Arduino into like a motion-controlled scary thing for Halloween.
It's a tool to scare children. Beware of Snubs' porch on Halloween. It will be dangerous and full of skulls
sound like a horrible
and
person.
howling. No one's horrible on Halloween except for that dude that was scaring small children on the block around the corner from mine. Then he scared my child, and then I scared him. It's a great story. I'll tell you about it later. If you can't donate, that is okay. Please take the time to send us questions, tips, and to share the show with your friends and family. If you can, give our video a thumbs up on YouTube. If you have time to review on the iTunes Store, it would be awesome. It all helps keep us growing, which helps us keep going. And thank you so much for supporting the show however you do.
We got a question on our Facebook from Patrick. He said, @Patrick, can you recommend a good AVR for a person with a sizable ripped movie collection for MP4 playback? My Yamaha just doesn't seem to be able to get center channel sound out of an MP4 with its existing hardware. From Patrick.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little there's a little bit of diagnostics here. MP4 files can contain a bunch of different audio formats, like stereo, MP3, 5.1 AAC, 5.1 AC3, thanks to Apple. I'd figure out which audio formatting is used in the container, probably taking a look at it inside of the Video LAN client VLC would be a pretty good way to do it. 5.1 AC3 won't work on a lot of by-the-book MP4 players. Oh. If you're using the actual software or the actual firmware inside your AVR to play the files, check the manual to see exactly what audio formats it supports. If that's your problem, you could re-encode the video or get a set-top box that will actually play back your video. If the video is in a format your AVR should play, make sure that your center channel works with any 5.1 encoded audio. Connect a DVD or a Blu-ray player, Netflix, whatever. If not, I would walk through the audio settings in your AVR, or better yet, just reset it to default for all settings and start over. There are so many settings inside of AVRs sometimes that sometimes it's just easier to just wipe it to default and then work your way through it. So if the center channel works, have you tried other set-top boxes or playback software, Plex, Kodi, VLC, off of a laptop connected to your AVR, just to verify that there actually is 5.1 audio on the files you have? A couple encoding mistakes, and hey, you can have stereo audio in a 5.1 container. Oh. Doesn't that suck? I'm just saying, it's a thing. It's a thing. And if you just want an excuse for a new AVR, I'm hearing really good things about Onkyo's TX NR63. It sells for about $500. There is a great review from Jeff Morrison up on the Wirecutter. Cool. And his ears and judgment his ears are fantastic and his judgment is awesome. Go with the Onkyo for $500 unless you need fanciness.
I'll read the next one.
You read the next one?
Yeah.
Fire it up.
We got another message from Average Random Joe who writes, "Hey TekThing, I am looking at OSs and wondered what your recommendations would be. My wife has used a Mac her whole life and since the Apple II, and I believe isn't super tech savvy. So a similar look and feel to Apple would be a plus, so I don't have to field questions all day. I built a Hackintosh, so I have some skills, but not a lot, so it needs to be fairly simple to run and maintain. Other than internet and some spreadsheet and document use, we only use our desktop for our large family photo library. So those are really it for applications it needs to run. I've looked at Elementary OS, but wanted to get your valuable opinion in the matter." From Average Random Joe.
I am honored that my opinion is valuable.
Me too.
3 ideas. If it works, don't fix it. Get your wife a Mac or build her a Hackintosh. Boom. No learning curve. Windows, I'd say, is just about as easy to learn as a Mac. Just make sure you run antivirus or malware.
Might be kind of hard.
Well, lots of simple things are different, like where do I adjust this setting? Or, oh, I have to, my favorite photo editing software isn't available on Windows. Are you ready to be tech support? Judging from your email, I would say no.
Yeah, Windows requires a lot of tech support.
And then there's Linux.
I'd say do Linux.
Linux. Well, okay, so Elementary OS, if you've never seen it, is actually gorgeous. You could also go with Linux Mint, which is incredibly popular, or Ubuntu is kind of like.
That's
Ubuntu.
my recommendation, Ubuntu.
There was a web page there.
There was.
And then it went away. Hello, Ubuntu. Just remember something. If you move to Linux, you are going to have to figure out lots of little details and then explain them to your spouse. Unless you're already Linux savvy, in which case you won't have to figure out the details, but you'll still have to explain them to your spouse.
Luckily, with Ubuntu specifically, a lot of the hardware configurations, they'll just work automatically with Ubuntu, and if they don't, if you update the drivers or whatever, then they'll work fine. So there's a lot of Linux compatibility that were issues years ago, but are no longer issues now. And a lot of the menus are pretty similar to Mac. And it also runs with kind of the same background. So Mac and Linux both came from the same place. So in that case, if you need to do anything in the terminal, it's pretty similar.
OS 10 comes from FreeBSD, and don't start emailing about that because I don't even want to get into it. Elementary OS is really pretty. I have never tried it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Maybe we should do I will do an Elementary OS review for next episode.
Okay. I'm going to hold him to that and make sure it happens.
You should hold me to that.
And if he doesn't, I'll hit him.
She'll hit me, people. Abuse. Remember, once in a while, in between being beaten half to death by your angry co-host, put down the phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog, like read a book.
Yes, like The Martian, because oh my gosh, the movie was so good.
I couldn't go to a special screening of the movie this weekend, But man, I ripped through the book in like 2 days.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Oh man.
Science,
great.
and Midwestern
Popcorn.
perseverance, and mayhem, and stuff.
Popcorn.
Popcorn? Did you just sit there?
Pretty much.
Did you read the book before you saw the movie?
Man, I'm such a fatty when it comes to popcorn.
How do you get
it's my
fat
favorite.
off of popcorn?
You just eat it all day.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing with our elementary OS review, and possibly much larger due to a popcorn obsession. You know what's just as tasty as popcorn? Buttered popcorn. And you know what's even tastier than buttered popcorn?
Cheesy popcorn.
A stick of butter.
Ew.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, says the woman who butters her Pop-Tarts. You and your
You're outing her in the blooper
There's
reel.
nothing wrong with buttering your Pop-Tarts.
There's nothing wrong with it. I just can't believe.
Is that a euphemism?
No, it's not a euphemism for anything else.
No, she puts butter on her Pop-Tarts, which are like,
Yeah.
it's like sugar and
tastes
butter.
good.
When
Yeah,
Crispy
it's
Pie
delicious.
is like sugar and
That
butter
is-
and fruit.
It's so delicious.
Technically, there's some fruit has been near some portion of the contents of your favorite Pop-Tarts. Are they blueberry?
No, chocolate.
What are they?
They're
The crazy
they were
ones that you-
50th anniversary chocolate vanilla fudge.
Chocolate vanilla fudge.
Yeah, or vanilla.
So there has
chocolate
been no
fudge.
fruit anywhere near your Pop-Tart at any time. Hopefully, all of you are contemplating.
Do you like Pop-Tarts? Do you like Pop-Tarts?
I love Pop-Tarts. I've just never buttered. I never even contemplated buttering until the day I saw you like pulling them out of the microwave, they're all toasted and melty, and there's like a pool of butter.
I like Pop-Tarts.
She does. Well, you like one type of Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, just
that's
one.
available like every 10 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
I saw you, every time I saw you for like 6 months, you had a package of those Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
She likes Pop-Tarts more than Yan Cat.
Well, I don't know about
I don't know
that.
about that.